Hello and welcome to my channel, friends. Today I've come with another new topic, which is called follow up. Well, we all are aware of this term, which is called follow up, but we don't really know the exact meaning of this. I mean, many of us, we don't know exactly what follow up means. Generally, people keep a myth that follow up means just regularly, repeatedly knocking someone or chasing people, etc. etc. Not really that. I'll give you the exact concept of meaningful follow up and how it helps, how it works in a corporate. To start with, there are certain key factors you need to keep in mind when you are doing a follow up, so that the follow up doesn't become a nagging, it doesn't become it doesn't irritate or annoy people. Instead, it becomes really meaningful in order to help you close the assignments on which you're working. Now, I'll give you two examples. One, say you have an order to execute. Now, in order to execute or close an order, the first criteria is purchase. So, when you have negotiated the price after placing the quotation on the vendor and then finalized the price code and everything is final, the no regret offer is accepted by the vendor, and then you start talking or communicating on the purchase part. So when you're doing the procurement or when you're doing the purchase, there should be a deadline. So the first key factor to keep in mind when you're doing a neat, meaningful follow-up is a create or set up a timeline or a deadline, so that within that period of time, if things work, it's fine. If not, it doesn't work, if it crosses that timeline, you should start following up, so that or maybe I would suggest before the timeline even comes or arrives, you need to 3-4 days prior to that, you need to start following up. Am I getting the material? When am I getting the material? So this is one very important factor, setting up a timeline which should be agreed upon or mutually agreed by you, the you as well as the vendor. Now suppose you have done the procurement, you have to deliver the materials to the client, and the client has given you a particular, of course client will give you a timeline, of course they'll set up that they are by this so and so date we have to close the assignment, we have to close the order, so the delivery of the material should happen by so and so x date. So you have to consistently follow up and work with the vendor teams, so that you are able to make the delivery happen. You have to take the delivery of the products or the materials from the vendor house to the client warehouse. This entire process, there's a lot of things which comes, depends on from company to company. There are different steps which fall in picture in order to complete just this step to this step, that is the materials, the purchase of the material till the delivery, the purchase of the material from the vendor house till the delivery of the material to the client doorstep. So this is one example I could give you. Another example would be, say you have a project, and every project has a particular deadline or a timeline. So now each project would have certain key steps, and you have to close one by one all the steps so as to ultimately deliver the project or close the project. Those steps or those tasks will individually have their own timelines. So you have to set up a timeline, which in turn becomes a reminder for you that yes, the timeline is tomorrow, and if it doesn't fall or if it doesn't close by that timeline, I need to follow up with the concerned team or concerned people who are acting, because your client will not wait to listen to your excuses why your vendor didn't deliver on time. So it is you who have to follow up on the other side, other end with your vendor, so that you can finally present to your client exactly on time. So follow up, why is follow up important? Now follow up is important because dunia mein, in the world, nobody will work without a push. That's very true. So pushing is a very simple term which I can use to define the meaning of a follow up. You need to push. Now at times we also do a follow up with with our clients. Why do we follow up with our clients? Maybe at times we have certain, in order to complete a project, we are dependent on the client, certain dependency areas where the client has to revert, or the client has to act or respond. Only then you will be able to close that particular task and move on to the next. So in those dependency areas, you'll have to follow up with the client as well. If the client is reluctant, or is slow, or is hesitant to respond on time, you have to follow up with the client. But there is a way. There is, of course, a way by which you can get a follow-up done with the vendor, and you get a follow-up done with the client. In very simple words, get anything done with the vendor like that. I mean, you should keep the attitude that I'll get it done from the vendor. And you should keep the attitude, I will have to get it done by the client. So there lies the difference. I hope I'm clear. So you have to very modestly, very politely interact, communicate, email, call, text, and do whatever. Convince, persuade, make them understand, make the client understand, and then make them revert on time, making them understand the value of the timeline, which is the deadline. You have to let the client understand that this is the deadline, and in order to reach that deadline, I have to close these tasks, and here in these areas I am dependent on you. These are the dependencies. So here I would request your cooperation. Otherwise, how will I be able to deliver to you the project, the assignment exactly by the deadline? So you have to work in a different way with the vendor. You have to work in a different way with the client, with both doing a follow-up in different ways. This is another feature. Say you are doing a follow-up at home with your children, you're doing a follow-up with your family members, that also is a follow-up. My child often refuses to eat. He tells me, Mom, keep the plate on the table, I'll eat on my time. He doesn't come. So I have to push him. There I do a lot of pushes and nudges. So that's a different follow-up. So follow-up has its own style. Follow-up, so you have to keep two things in mind. Follow-up, in order to do a meaningful follow-up, you have to set up an assertive timeline or a reminder that till so and so date I will not disturb people. Exactly after that I will start doing a follow-up, which is a communication, which is an interaction, which is giving reminders to people, and which is to some extent where it still doesn't work. And when you're being polite to people, you need to push or chase people, so that the end result is good, so that the output or the outcome is by the timeline or by the deadline. Number 2, follow-up should be done depending on who you are doing a follow-up with. So one is the reminder or the timeline, another is the style of follow-up. So if you are equipped and skilled in these two areas, if you understand how to set up these two areas, how to set up a timeline when you're working on a project or an order, and how to how in what style you can follow up with different people. If you are skilled or equipped, or if you understand these two areas properly, then you do a really good follow-up, and your follow-up will be considered as an important communication, and which will lead to the closure of the project by the exact announced and agreed timeline or deadline. I hope you like this video. This is just a briefing I gave you on follow-up. I'll come up with more and more videos on follow-up, coordination, corporate communication, and many others in a series in succession going forward. So keep watching me, and thank you very much for your valuable time. Bye.